the evolution of place.
Downtown Brooklyn was a farmland in 18th century, then transformed to urbanized in 19th century. In 20th century, following World War II, the City Planning Commission presented the Master Plan for Public Improvement Program. It pushed the city to modernization after suffering with the fiscal crisis in 1970s. A more aggressive economic development revitalized this area. Later on, rezoning in 2004 resulted in significant expansion of office space and ground floor retail. Mixed-use commercial and residential development in downtown Brooklyn extend to the adjacent brownstone neighborhoods. Over time, development is occurring at Pacific Park, the former Atlantic Yards. It is bringing continuing change to this place. It is creating the undulating skyline with buildings of varying heights in this area. The evolution of place profoundly affects the community in every aspect. Barclays Center is the symbol of the evolution that is an important neighbor to the nearby historic district. There are four major elements that influence the place, including urban planning, building design, transportation, and economic. Let's see how did the evolution of place transform the area of the Barclays Center site.
Back in the 19th century, the building along Atlantic Avenue has varied types of residential, industrial, and commercial. According to the historic unit map in 1961, the use of the land will change constantly. Since the mid-20th century, there have been many proposals to develop the area around Flatbush and Atlantic Avenues. The Atlantic Area Urban Renewal has been regarded since its inception in 1963 as primarily a redevelopment site for new housing and educational institutions. More than half of the Atlantic Yard footprint, including the rail yard, will fall within the boundary of Atlantic Area Urban Renewal. By 1968, there was a link of change, with redevelopment to be anchored by education. Their news report that Baruch College is going ahead with plans to move within a triangular-shaped area bounded by Atlantic Avenue, Vanderbilt Avenue, and Flatbush Avenue, in the Coron Heights section, but it never built. The Atlantic Yard project was first announced in 2003. It's a new basketball arena that mapping the Fifth Avenue between Flatbush and Atlantic Avenue to create an open space area for the Barclays Center. According to the Atlantic Yard report, Pacific Park is a mixed-use commercial and residential development project that will consist of 17 high-rise buildings under construction in Prospect Heights, adjacent to Fort Greene. The site itself is a former industrial view yard that built upon now separate neighborhood of Prospect Heights and Fort Greene. By reconnecting the streets and neighborhoods, the developer decided to demap a major roadway, a one-block stretch of Pacific Street, melting the two adjoining blocks together to help create several superblocks and turn the land into a semi-private open space, mainly benefiting the residents and neighborhood who will enjoy use of the parkland.
How has the neighborhood been affected by the new development?
The open space helped to link this neighborhood together with streets on axis with public green space within the complex. The 8-acre open space is planning to build enclosed area to play basketball and bocce, to stroll or sit and meet the neighbors. Also, more commercial space will be built in time to keep supply and demand in balance. Overall, from the urban planning perspective, the biggest impact of the Pacific Park project on evolution of this place is the transformation from the edge condition into a newly developed. From open area view yard to new residential building and park and a new arena, so that it is a new sense of place.
Barclays Center is the outcome of the evolution of design. It has rather steel and glass forming the sculptural and rusty color facade, and the curving metal creates the dynamic texture for surface. The cooperation of multiple architects provide different variety and energy to the project that they combine the high-performance evolutionary design. The massing of the Barclay Center is low, rise, and broad. The adjacent tower figure 3 stacked with triangular and rectangular volumes. The designer devoted to create a cohesive development with distinct architectural language that modulate the scale and materials. For example, they used red as main color for Barclay Center and modified the south side by using glazing at the street level and upper level between the sinuous bands. It is contextual with the surrounding building, which are low-rise and built in brick. At Carlton Avenue and close to the Dean Street, the designers modified the building scale by creating setback to obtain the cohesive connection with the neighborhood. This design method is flexible enough to adapt to the changing urban environment.
How design style of the place is evolved over time. What are the differences between each project?
Unlike the Barclay Center, the Dojo Dome was a proposal in 1955 for a basketball stadium that would have sat right in the Barclay Center site. It was a unified design project. The design idea came from architects of Norman Gathers and Buckminster Fuller. In the collection of Never Built New York, the rendering picture presents the domestic dome with red wall supporting the translucent fiberglass dome, as well as the roof that is partially open. This stadium could contain 55,000 seats and underground parking lot. Compared to the neighborhood, Dojo Dome has enormous scale. It is even bigger than Barclay Center. But this project was never built due to the rejection by Robert Moses about concerning the significant changes to the subway system. Vangari wrote on Atlantic Yard Master Plan for original arena in 2009. The rendering picture on the MIC that never was shows the large-scale architecture. Compared to the Dojo Dome, Gary's design concept includes the bulk of the arena is hidden by the high-rise and irregular surrounding buildings. It was a cohesive and continuous design. This whole style is a distinctive signature of Vangari without diversity. The red color building also relates to the neighborhoods as Barclay Center. One building is pointed to the intersection of Fabrice and Atlantic Avenue. It has glamorous form with cladding and cascading sheet of glass, but this building was replaced by a plaza and subway station that facing Barclay Center's entrance. This evolution is based on the consideration of creating convenience for people. On the east and south of the arena, the smaller residential towers have interesting form with uneven shape that look like children stacking blocks. This proposal was finally scrapped by the developer of Forest City Runner. Humanism, aesthetics, and harmony plays an important role in the evolution of design in Barclay Center site.
Let's go back in time, somewhere around the early 1900s. The word transportation has evolved over time and is said to have changed the world drastically, especially in a well-known area of Brooklyn known as the Atlantic Yards. Transportation is known as going from one place to another. According to the Brooklyn Daily Eagle in 1916, an image from the research from the Brooklyn Collection at the Brooklyn Library, early Atlantic Avenue transportation consisted of many horse-drawn carriages to bring people around town from one place to another. It consisted of a full closed-off carriage in that the rider was secluded from viewing what was around them. During that time, according to the Brooklyn Library Digital Collection, around the 1920s, there came to be elevated railways that didn't last long due to the demapping of the streets. As pictured in the New York City map in 1924, commuters crossed over to Manhattan using cable cars over the Brooklyn Bridge, back and forth to travel to work. Over the years, the use of vehicles came to be a mode of traveling around on the busy streets around the Atlantic Yards. Motor vehicles, buses, and trains played a big role in what would be today's world, not just around Brooklyn, but most of New York. Of what is considered trains, now was once different, the Long Island Railroad. As stated by the railroad press, was once a commuter train for goods, as in wood, construction, etc. A freight train called the NYA, also known as the New York and Atlantic Railway, to now what is now the Long Island Railroad that provides many commuters today. The Barclays Center was created in the early 2000s. It was a route to subway line service and creating one of the biggest with 10 subway lines providing routes to Manhattan and the other boroughs, intersecting different areas and 6 bus lines right outside the arena around Brooklyn that are usually always crowded around the terminal. The Atlantic Avenue Terminal is a pit stop for tourists and regular commuters.
Has the change of transportation deeply affected the Atlantic Yard area?
With the Atlantic Avenue Terminal being a pit stop for many tourists and commuters, it is now more consistent on Uber, Lyft, and the ever-improving Atlantic Terminal to get home or around from the events around the site of this project. Though the transformation of transportation had a major increase of many forms of business by gaining many people coming across the area every day.
So here we come to the core of the discussion, the economic effect of the Pacific Park project, especially focus on the Barclays Center and the housing issue. After tons of research for Barclays Center and Pacific Park, the Barclays Center is a low profitability commercial project with limited potential market value. The main concern is that the profit has behind the expectation and continue lose money since day one. Then we should ask why should include the basketball arena with the Atlantic Yard, or now called the Pacific Park project. Those developers and investors are few of the smartest and richest people in the world. They should already know that the arena will not make enough profit to support itself. Therefore, they must have another way to gain better money. Invest in Barclays Center, such as the luxury residential building 550 Vanderbilt Avenue. The Barclays Center itself actually become the momentum of the entire project. According to the 421A plan, also known as Affordable New York, require 25% to 30% affordability in rental building, with various income mixed, limits the tax exemptions to condo building with 6 to 35 units. So who is eligible to apply for this fantastic cheap apartment? The lottery restrictions state that the affordable apartments are awarded within a range of tenants' income, starting with family making 30% of the area median income, or between $20,000 to $42,000 per year, depending on household size. With 421A plan, the developer could save buyer $50 million more in taxes. Michelle De La Hoz, executive director of Fifth Avenue Committee, which has called for deeper affordability at the project, called it ridiculous. The developer, she said, devised a way to substantially reduce their tax burden, while offering extremely limited improvement in the affordability level in a project whose affordable housing is too expensive for most New Yorkers in need of housing. For the developer, though it is a good news, the joint application results in 25 years of exemption with no residential gap on the 421A exemption. However, according to the news from Secondemic.org, Atlantic Yard developers struggled to find tenants for higher-income affordable units in 2017. When the press asked what caused the vacancy, Executive Director of Mutual Housing Association of New York said all of the empty units are reserved for a group of people, those earning the most money. Then we have another question to ask. How is the developer fulfilling its ambitious promises of jobs, affordable housing, contracting, and more at its controversial Pacific Park project in Brooklyn? In fact, not so well. The affordable housing is being developed in extremely slow condition, and developer admits Pacific Park project will take until 2035. So what about job placement? A representative from developer said there were 430 construction workers on site by 2015. However, according to the June 2014 state document, which assumed only a best-case scenario, there were supposed to be 1,600 workers on site by that time. Developers still insist that Pacific Park project will be an economic engine for Brooklyn, New York City, and the state, generating more than $5 billion in new tax revenue over the next 30 years. In addition to tax benefits, the projects will also create thousands of new jobs, upwards of 1,700 construction-related jobs, and up to 8,000 permanent jobs. Now, we are 16 years away from the latest projected completion date. Let's expect that big dream they described it to us will come true.
Our site of the Atlantic Yards has evolved in many ways, including the design, transportation, urban planning, and as well as economics. It has evolved over time from roads being demapped, new projects being built, and changes made in modes of moving from place to place. Though not all the changes have impacted the area successfully, but have also changed the way people live around the site.